welcome to the Northport City Commission Candidate Forum. I'm Liz Barber, the Forum Committee Chair for the Sarasota League. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, given the storm, and to thank all of my team for all their hard work in making these forums possible. Before we begin this evening, please rise and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The views expressed tonight are those of the candidates, not the League, and this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. The League does not support or oppose political candidates or parties. Invited to tonight's candidate forum are candidates whose names will appear on the November 5th general election ballot for the Northport City Commission, Districts 1, 2, and 3. Please note that all Northport residents can vote in all 3 district races. This forum is being live streamed and recorded for future viewing for those who could not attend tonight. Access to the recording of this and all our candidate forums will be available from our website, lwvsrq.org. Before we get started, we ask that you silence your cell phones and put them away, as the League does not allow recording of the forums. Now, let's get started by introducing tonight's moderator. Rosalind Painter-Goffey is our moderator. She's a League member, a 30-year educator, and former elected State of Ohio Education Board member. Roz?
Welcome. Hello and welcome to the Northport City Commissioner Candidate Forum. I'm Roz Painter-Goffey, tonight's moderator. The format for this evening's forum will be: candidates have 1.5 minutes to reply to questions and to make concluding remarks. All questions will be asked of all candidates. The order in which candidates answer questions will be rotated with each question. Candidates are requested to answer the question that was asked. No time will be given for rebuttal. Candidates may discuss their opponent's policy positions, but may not make personal remarks concerning other candidates. We ask the audience not to applaud and to be silent until after closing remarks. We ask that no literature be circulated during the forum. Our timer will hold up a yellow block when 20 seconds remain and a red block when no time remains. Candidates must stop talking when the red block is held up. Timers, please hold up the yellow block indicating 20 seconds remain, and now the red block to signal that time is up. I also have a bell to signal that speaking time has ended, but I don't think I have a bell, do I?
We'll get you one.
Okay, we'll have that. When you hear that, that's it. Oh, there you go.
Really? Let's get it serious.
Okay, thank you. League guidelines prohibit any recording of this forum. The League will record this event, which can be streamed from our website and from YouTube. Our guidelines prohibit anyone from using any portion of this recording for any purpose. All candidates here tonight have agreed to follow the rules. I'd like to introduce our candidates by seat now. For seat number 1, Mr. Petro and Ms. White. For seat number 2, Ms. Langdon and Mr. Smith. For seat number 3, Mr. Duval and Mr. Sias. Candidates, thank you so much for participating in our forum. And now we'll begin with the questions. And we'll begin this evening with Mr. Petro. Question number 1, please introduce yourself, describe your education and experience related to this position, and explain why you are the best candidate for the position. Oh, and we need to pass the microphone along. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Demetrius Petro, and I'm running for the Commission of District 1. I'm running to be on the commission because I feel passionate about the issues that we face as a city. I'm deeply concerned and care for the future of our community. In my campaign, I don't make any empty promises, but I tell people what I believe in. I strongly believe in accountability, transparency, and efficient spending. I was born and raised in Estonia. When I was 16 years old, I moved to the US with my parents and my siblings with nothing, just a backpack on my shoulders. I started with nothing and persevered. Through high school, I held part-time and summer jobs, graduated from DePaul University with bachelor's in accounting and finance. I'm a father of special needs son and 2 daughters. When our special needs son was born, I had to quit my 9-to-5 job and started to be in self-employment, remodeling business. I'm a detail-oriented and result-driven. I want the residents of our city to have the input in our city government, and that's why I'm running. As I talk to the people of our city, I feel a lot of residents feel that they have lost their trust in the current commission and they feel frustrated. I want to represent the residents and be a balance and voice of reason on the commission.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Petro. Ms. White?
Okay, thank you. Yes, first and foremost, I am my son's mom. I came to Northport in 1991 when I built my house. My son was born and raised here. And I haven't just taken up residence in the city of Northport. I have been involved and immersed in my community since moving here. I was a teacher for 36 years. I taught, I have to disclose, I was born in New Jersey, okay?
We won't hold that against you.
Okay, thank you. But I taught high school algebra in New Jersey, and then when I moved to Florida, I taught high school algebra at Port Charlotte High School. I taught for Charlotte County for 30 years, eventually moving to 2nd grade, then 3rd grade, and then STEM. Finished up my teaching career. So my background in algebra really gave me the ability to plan and execute a logical solution to things. And I put that into place with a lot of things that I've done. For example, upon moving here, I started a welcome wagon. Welcome to Northport. And then when my son turned 2 and there was nothing here for 2-year-olds, I started a Mommy and Me group. I also started a coffee cafe. So I have experience in working with businesses. I started a nonprofit group, People for Trees, that has spawned 2 long-running events in Northport, the annual tree fair for 27 years, and the upcoming tour to Northport.
Thank you, Ms. Langdon. Or Mrs. White, Ms. Langdon, sorry.
Hi, I'm Barbara Langdon. I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, the daughter of a Boston firefighter. I worked my way through school and earned advanced degrees in city planning and business management. I spent over 20 years working for high-tech companies in marketing and business development. I moved to Northport with my late husband from New Hampshire in 2014 and reopened my internet marketing company as soon as I moved here. I immediately became immersed in the business community. I joined the Northport Area Chamber of Commerce. I became a SCORE mentor and worked providing free management consulting services in Sarasota County, Port Charlotte, and in Collier County. I also volunteered for the city. I participated in the Economic Development Advisory Board for the city of Northport. I'm a business person. I approach things from a fact-based business point of view. So you can always count on me to be logical and balanced, and I pride myself in trying to do what's best for most of the residents in the incredible city of Northport. I love this city.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Hello, my name is Josh Smith. My wife and I moved to Northport going on 5 years ago. I have been the manager of several maintenance divisions, and I currently own my own small business. The reason that I decided to run was from the Toledo Blade 320 project on down. There were several projects that it just felt like the citizens weren't being listened to. So I figured that if you want to complain about it, you might as well run and try to do something for it. Just hoping to bring a common sense approach, and hopefully we can get the citizens' voice heard again on the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duval?
Hello, I'm David Duval. Thank you for having me here. I was born and raised in Vermont. When I got out of high school, I joined the U.S. Marines, and I spent my year in Vietnam. When I came home, I was 20 years old, and I was not old enough to vote. They didn't pass an amendment so that 18-year-olds could vote until 1971, and I came home in 69. I moved to Northport. During my career, I was a nuclear instrumentation and controls supervisor and trainer in nuclear power plants on Lake Ontario. I moved to Northport. I bought my house here in 2008, and I've been very active in many volunteer organizations and activities during my time here. I did spend 4 years on our city's charter review board, and I think I would be the best candidate for this position because I am financing this campaign myself. I owe only the voters and the citizens of this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sias?
Who is Andrew Sias? That's the key issue for you today. Is this hearing? Mike's not working.
Didn't take long. It's dead. Yes.
That's okay.
Can you stand up maybe and project?
Yes, I will try. I used to be a track coach, so I got a track coach for you. Who is Andrew Sias? If you look me up, you'll find me cooking hot dogs at the Boys and Girls Club at their annual event. I'm cooking hot dogs at the Kiwanis fishing tournament. If you go to Dallas White Park, you'll see the wheelchair accessible swing. I used to be on Parks and Rec. I found out they were building one. I was a trustee for the Kiwanis Florida Foundation, got a $10,000 grant, so it was built quicker, less taxpayers' money. Every year I have a birthday party. I supply the food and beverage. All you do, you're all welcome. You bring socks and underwear. It goes to the elementary school kids. I just made my first delivery to Glen Ellen. I will go to Lamarck, Toledo Blade, all of them, and it's a way of giving back to the community. Why I should be a commissioner? I built relationships. I'm building them with you, the voter. I'm going door to door, attending these meetings. But you have to go beyond that. I built relationships with our county commissioners, our state representative, even our congressmen. Northport deserves more that we don't get. And you have to build those relationships to get what we need. And I can do that, and that makes me the best choice. Thank you.
What did they say about?
They're coming, but everybody needs to remain seated and
Okay.
just project as best as you can.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, we'll begin with you.
Okay.
Next question. If elected, what are your highest priority goals while in office, and how will you accomplish them?
If elected, my highest goals are working on our infrastructure issues. As the recent storms have proven, there are several projects that were shelved in previous years to help with waste or stormwater drainage. That's one thing we definitely need to look back into. We also need to work on getting commercial in places that is a common sense location. Unfortunately, we have a few neighborhoods that kind of asked for commercial and somehow it went multifamily, and we have some other neighborhoods that I don't think commercial or multifamily would fit in, and it got done with the new ULDC rewrite. So goal is to just take a common sense look at infrastructure and the things that have been passed recently, and hopefully a common sense approach will kind of get some other commissioners on board, and maybe we can get 3 to do what the citizens think is right. Thank you.
Ms. Langdon?
Thank you. I'm running for re-election. My focus in the first 4 years was improving the quality of life and raising the living standard here in the city of Northport. 90% of our workers leave the city to go to work in other places. and people really want to live and play and work in their communities. So I've been very focused on that in my first 4 years. I'm proud to say that after decades of residents of this city trying to bring hospitals here, we have 4 hospitals coming to the city. 2 are under construction as we speak, and 2 are in the planning stages. Those organizations, those institutions will bring thousands of quality jobs. So what do I mean by quality jobs? A good wage, organizations that invest in the skills of their workers, organizations and companies that provide a career path and a path forward for those that want to advance, and companies that provide robust benefits packages for their employees. That's what the city, the residents of the city of Northport need, and I'll continue to focus on that if you choose to re-elect me in November. Thank you.
Mr. Sias?
One of the issues right now, and it's going to segue from what Barbara said, we have an affordable housing problem, but the solution to affordable housing is affordable jobs. Again, more people leave here, but if we had jobs here that paid a living wage, we would get more people in the middle class. Northport is on the top, Northport is on the top 20 cities in the United States for losing the middle class. That is a life-threatening problem to Northport. We have to address this now. We cannot have the middle class not afford to be able to live in Northport. The second thing I will focus on is supporting our first responders. They have a special place in my heart, and I would focus on them because they supply the safety to our community. We had a wildfire in Toledo Blade area that, if you just look at Hawaii, what happened, our firefighters stopped it. And we have to provide them with appropriate equipment so that they can do this. We built a bridge on the connector on the Legacy Trail, and it cannot hold the brush fire truck. So they cannot dress from one side to the other. And we should incorporate all people in our decisions. Thank you.
Ms. White. Ms. White?
Oh, okay. I'm jumping the, okay. Yes, I was elected during the 2021 special election in March of 21, and it was my goal, having been involved with the environment and starting a nonprofit, People for Trees, to get a decent tree protection ordinance on the books, and that happened just a year after I was elected. So I will continue to advocate for the importance of our tree canopy and planning for that by planting trees, and people are aware of that. Now it's kind of easy. When I started People for Trees in '97, it wasn't easy being green, okay? I just have to say that. Also, what I want to continue is to tackle what has been referred to as legacy projects in Northport. These are things that have been put on hold and put on the back burner for many years, including what we just accomplished, the ULDC rewrite. That has been on the back burner since 2015 without it finally coming to a head. I will continue to not shy away from tackling those difficult, contentious issues, things that need to be done because they just need to be done. So that's what I hope to continue, that we will never have, hear the term again, legacy projects in Northport, that we will continue to move forward and become the vibrant community that it is going to be. It is, and it will continue to be. Thank you.
And Mr. Petro?
Yes, when elected, I want to look for the best interest of the long-term prosperity of the city and not my own agenda. And as the city grows, to protect the rights and respect, to protect the quality of life. I also want to say the infrastructure is my top priority. I want to work effectively with the residents to get their input and solutions. Together we can achieve much more if we work in tandem. We have to have citizens, residents' input in our government, in the city government. And that goes with also with the county commissioner commissioners to work, establish effective channels of communication between the residents and the government. I really want to cut wasteful spending and go line by line and look at the budget and see where can we cut the wasteful spending, because I'm an accountant. Address and solve our infrastructure challenges, of course, especially flooding, and make innovative solutions. I have a couple solutions to that, and obviously look at the strategic plan. In addition, I want to implement smart financial management and put into practice my core values that are transparency, accountability, and efficient spending. And also equally,
Sorry, Ms. Petro.
thank you.
Next question will be for Mr. Duval, if you could pass the microphone. And here's the next question. How would you fund and prioritize future infrastructure projects to keep pace with the rapid development Northport is experiencing?
How would I fund the infrastructure projects that are needed? I'm glad that one came up. One of the most important infrastructure projects that we have in front of us is the Yorkshire Boulevard exit. Now, they tell me that that's about 10 years down the road. But if you consider what happened in this last week here in Florida and in other southeastern states, okay, roads are closed, people could not get out, okay? We're continually building residences here in Northport. There's a plan to build on the north end of Toledo Blade. On the northeast end, it'll be north of 75, but east of Toledo Blade. The only way for people to get out of there is going to be Toledo Blade. Okay, that infrastructure needs to be built. We need to extend Toledo Blade, and Yorkshire needs to be opened. And the way we can do that is to get to the federal government, the state government, and let them know that this is not just for economic development. This is for the safety of the people who live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sias?
That is an advantage I have if I'm your commissioner. I have built those relationships. If I gave a question and answer, and Greg Stubbe recognized my name when I went up there, they know me. I can go to them. The problem is, with our form of government, we go to our state, federal, and local leaders while they are in session. We'll ask them for things, and that's like going to your doctor when he's in surgery. I can meet James Buchanan right here in Northport. He knows me. I can meet Joe Gruters, our state representative. He knows me. I can get these things for Northport. In relation to Toledo Blade, though, I oppose that. Toledo Blade, if we build an extension up, that will send trucks through the estates. And I think that will disrupt that community. And it's going right through a preserve, and we should not build a road through a preserve. We should seek an alternate route. We received money from Dr. Julio Gonzalez when he was a state representative and had one of our lift stations rebuilt. We can do that again with James Buchanan and with Joe Gruters. Thank you.
Mr. Petro, sending the microphone down your way.
So how do we fund the infrastructure? That's the question.
Fund and prioritize future infrastructure.
We have to be very honest with ourselves and see where it needs to be done. In the order of importance, we obviously look at the events such as recent storm, hurricanes, and flooding. We have to address the infrastructure. And how do we fund it? We have to go line by line on the budget and see where we spend the money that are less important and redirect our money to the most important projects. And we have to plan. We have to be proactive. Our roads are not designed to sustain such a quick growth. We have to invest in our roads and infrastructure, and we have to do it with diligent planning. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So we have to have a concept for the future, and my vision is to bring commercial development where it is designed to be commercial and not convert residential into commercial. After all, our city is unique, and that's the reason why the city is growing. Thank you.
Ms. White?
Yes, as the incumbent, I can fall back on history of what we have done, the commission has done to address these needs, and that includes putting the bond referendum to vote on the ballot, because Northport is the only municipality in all of Florida that doesn't have the ability to borrow, and that's what that bond is all about. And please research that and read into that to see what that is. But right now, to address our water control structures and our bridges that need to be done, it would take 20 years doing 2 a year to redo all of those, and we're not going to wait 20 years for that to happen. So by having that bond would give us that ability, and that is an example of what I've been part of, that is addressing and realizing what we need to do. And again, what I said before, making those difficult, contentious sometimes decisions to get these things done. As far as infrastructure, there was water and sewer brought up Toledo Blade and Sumter, which is why we have the hospital coming. So these are things that I would continue to do moving forward as your commissioner. Thank you.
Ms. Langdon?
Thanks, Alice. We've made some major projects on infrastructure in the past 4 years. The widening of price, after admiring that problem for almost 8 years, is finally being widened. We'll all be disadvantaged come early next calendar year when we start ripping up that road. As Mayor also mentioned, we got funding, some of it from the state, not all from city residents, to bring water and sewer to the interchanges of 75, stimulating commercial development in those areas where they belong. Moving forward, this city is facing major challenges in stormwater management and utilities. Up until this point, we've been a pay-as-you-go community. So what I mean by that is we have to save up the money before we can fund a major project. We have aging infrastructure. Some of it is starting to fail, and we're saving our money, but there are 2 bad things that happen with that. One is, by the time we save the money, the project has sometimes tripled in what it's going to cost, and all of us living here today foot that bill. If we approve on November 5th the referendum to enable the city to borrow money with very strict guide rails, we'll be able to execute those projects quicker.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to make sure we know is that our infrastructure issues are going to have to go to you guys. That we are going to have to do special elections, and in order to make that work, we need to have a master plan in place. It needs to be clearly laid out. It needs to be handed out to every citizen. It needs to be these are the top 5 we're going to tackle now. These are the top 5 we're going to tackle next. The referendum will take care of a lot of the little issues. But to finish widening price, to take care of more of our drain water issues, we are going to have to go to you guys. This city is getting better, but it does a terrible job of informing residents and giving the plan of how we get there. So I would really like to, if elected, I'd really like to work with staff and come up with a master plan for projects, one that is clear, one that the citizens can understand, one that has some realistic pricing on it, and then unfortunately we're going to have to go to you guys and ask to get it done. So that's my plan for how to move forward and how to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. White, we'll start with you.
Okay.
The next question, I think you've referenced this several times. In your view, what are the pros and cons of the Northport Charter referendum on November's ballot that would allow the City Commission to have emergency borrowing power without voter approval?
I only see the pro in that. It's been put out there quite often that we've been a pay-as-you-go city, which has caused a lot of our problems and a lot of what I refer to as legacy projects, not having money to do things that should have been done a very long time ago. I remember going to all the Price Boulevard workshops, looking at all the different plans and casting your vote for the right one, and then it was approved, and then it just sat there for quite some time. So we do have to have that ability, and there's all kinds of guardrails built into that, and it's $15 million cap. There is a debt management policy that has to always be put out with every single thing that's going to be borrowed for. That was a terrible way to phrase that, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But that is really, I can't think of any cons at all. It would really leverage our ability, the money that we have, to use it further to get some of these infrastructure projects done that I quoted. 20 years to wait to do some of those projects is absurd. We deserve better, and that certainly is the way to do that. And also 410 other municipalities can't be wrong in doing their, having the ability to borrow, including the county of Sarasota, that puts out an entire booklet.
Thank you. Mr. Petro, we're going to pass it to Mr.
Oh,
Petro.
it's this way, sorry.
Thank you.
Before I answer this question, I want to say my view about the debt. We all have debt to some extent. I use debt myself. I do balance transfer on my credit cards at 0%. I know some of you use that. I used credit cards and pay them off as quickly as possible. Debt is good as long as it's managed correctly. I am not in favor of this referendum, and for the several reasons. First, it is being presented as an emergency debt referendum, but in essence, it's the change of the charter, and
Excuse me, I'm very sorry.
Okay, we'll back up your time, Mr. Petro.
So as using debt can be very beneficial for the city. But I feel personally that this referendum is being presented as an emergency, and it's not being transparent. And one of my core values is being transparent with the residents, and I don't feel that this is presented in its sincerity as it is presented. Couple things, it says capital, and I have this printout from the charter change. Basically, we've been asked to rewrite our charter, and this is not capped at $15 million. It's capped $15 million per project, and safety or public health can be any capital improvement project. And another thing is problematic is the cost index is not really accurate.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I am for the referendum because I believe it's what is best for this city. It does have a debt policy. It does have caps in place. The goal is for your next commission to find a way to get rid of the little loopholes that are in it. And then if legally possible, we need to attach it to the charter. So it can't just be changed by whatever commission feels like they want to spend more or less money. It is unfortunately kind of being sold as the great savior of our financial issues. There is a $15 million cap per project. There's not a lot you can get done for that. So when I talk about it, I want to make sure that we still let you guys know that we're going to have to come to you to get approval on the larger projects. That way you guys are still a part of them. We still get to communicate with you moving forward. You know, it's one of those things that the debt management policy it is pretty Loctite. It's just got a couple little things, and we just need to add it to the charter. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Langdon?
Yes, thank you. I want to clarify something because I'm detecting a tone in some of the comments that the city has not been open and transparent in approaching this debt referendum. And I just want to remind people that we have discussed the debt referendum at workshops, at commission meetings, in public forums. The city is going out on a monthly, sometimes twice a month basis, doing presentations around the city, and one of the topics we cover is the debt management policy. Part of that policy is establishing a steering committee of community members with backgrounds in finance, and so maybe bankers and accountants that will help review all of those projects. There will be a list of projects. It will be in priority order. Those projects will be shared with the community. And all through this process, we will be open and transparent and communicative. One of our fellow commissioners is actually doing some events just on the debt policy in the community. So I hope you all are getting information from the city, that you're signed up for emails, that you're getting alerts, and that you're visiting the city's Facebook page. We disseminate information multiple times a day on a variety of topics.
Mr. Sias?
The charter amendment, one of the things that it would help is if there's ever a case like another Ian, the federal government offers 0% interest loans that we could not take effect. If you have to put certain things on a charter or a voter referendum, I should say, by the time you can get it on the referendum, those funds are gone. The referendum is going to be decided by you, the people. You're going to do your research. It's up to you. As a commissioner, it's up to me how to use that if you pass it, or how to work around it if you vote against it. One thing I really am against is multiple charter amendments because they cost about $80,000 of the taxpayers' money, and it goes up as our population goes up. So I want the amendments to be voted up or down, not to reintroduce them every couple of years. You make a decision, we have to abide by it. Thank you.
And Mr. Duval? Thank you.
I am totally against this charter referendum. The city is making an effort to tell people information daily. Go to any city website, the first thing you're going to see is some information about the referendum. But it's all kind of one-sided, okay? There's some things they don't tell you, okay? The charter referendum, the wording on the ballot you're going to see can only be 75 words long, okay? But if you go back to the law that was passed by the board, okay, there's words in there, and I want to read some of those words to you, okay? For imminent infrastructure or system failure, including but not limited to roads, bridges, water control structures. Another, capital improvement facilities for emergency and essential services, including but not limited to. In other words, that's kind of an open wallet, okay? And as far as the debt management policy, it's just a policy and it can be changed. The charter can only be changed by referendum. You get to vote on that. You don't get to vote on their policy, okay? This can be done as two separate questions. One for emergencies, that referendum should pass, and then the second one should have limits on it.
Thank you. I think I got to everybody on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Go back.
Question number 5, I need to read it first here. Question number 5, if the charter referendum giving power to the city commission to borrow funds without voter approval passes, what steps would you take to ensure transparency to the voters?
Well, one thing I'm doing is I'm going door to door. I'm having coffee clutches, building a rapport with the citizens of Northport. However, that won't end if I'm elected commissioner. I will continue to do that. There's a famous old line, you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you listen twice as much as you talk. I will reach out to the people. There are events that you can go to where citizens gather. I will appear there. You can ask me any question. I will have my email. I will have my text. You can send it. I set up a special phone just for my campaign so citizens can text me. I have the ability to listen, and I will follow through with that. And the job of a commissioner is to listen to the people, take that information, and put it into a workable plan. And this was about the charter review.
If it doesn't pass, what
If-
steps would you
If
take?
it doesn't step, the thing we have to do is reach out to our local and state representatives for our improvements on lift stations, our canals, our roads. We can reach out and get those, and that's something I have a skill at. Thank you. Goes this way.
Back to you, Mr. Duval.
Back to me. Okay, if this charter does not pass, and I hope it doesn't, okay, I hope the city comes back with 2 referendum questions very quickly. One for the emergency services. I believe that should pass, okay? And the second one, take that debt management policy and just ignore it and put those guardrails into the charter. The charter cannot be changed except by you. The city commission can't just decide to change the policy, okay? And one thing that nobody has mentioned is that with the charter, with the referendum, the borrowing, $15 million per project, but it doesn't say anything about any maximum. Well, the city has been working, and I say this is a plus, has been working with a company, with an advisor who advises cities and towns how to keep their debt in line, what they're calling guardrails. Those guardrails should be put into the charter. One of them would be like the total debt could be a certain percentage of the gross revenue of the city. Okay, and there are others, but those should be in the charter referendum and not in a debt management policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Langdon?
Yes, thank you. So if the referendum doesn't pass, we'll continue doing what we've been doing. We aggressively pursue grants. We have a very small but mighty grants team that has done a wonderful job of getting funding for infrastructure and other essential projects. We'll continue to work with developers in this city. Our staff has done a really good job of getting concessions from developers who are implementing big projects in the city. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One is up by Toledo Blade. One of the developers is out of their own funds building a park and will maintain a park with playing fields that will be open to the public. In another area of the city, staff has influenced and encouraged one of the developers to enhance the water and sewer in that area, not on their development. Any development requires water and sewer, but this is outside to benefit the general community. But it will hold us back if we're not able to borrow smartly. It will continue to hold this city back in terms of ensuring a safe and secure infrastructure.
Thank you. Mr. Petro? Goes down to him. Did I miss? Oh, no, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
Should be you.
That's what I thought.
Sorry.
As I spoke about, if it passes, we definitely need to we need to get rid of the loopholes and then find a way to lock it into the charter. One of the big things is if it doesn't pass. As I spoke about, we need to come up with a project master plan. There's a CIP list out there. It's got some stuff on it, some stuff that might happen. We need an actual plan for the next 20 years. This is what we're doing. This is the estimated cost. We're coming to you with this amount of money each year. Let's knock this stuff out. We need to actually do it once you give us the ability to. I can't tell you how many projects. I believe Alice calls them legacy projects that sit around and sit around. A few of them got funded and they continued to sit around. So if you guys give us the ability to do these projects, we need to make sure they're getting done in a timely fashion. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Petro.
So I'm sorry, I got distracted. But I'll go back to this question. A lot of people say, yes, it is protected by the debt management policy, but the debt management policy can be changed with 2 meetings, just 2 meetings. And there you go, it's unlimited borrowing. I hope it doesn't pass, because I would definitely vote for the referendum emergency only. But then we have to be transparent and present another question or referendum question to the citizen on borrowing, because we do need to borrow money. I could not say any better than David Duval. He completely mirrored my view on this. It has to be 2 questions, and it has to be guardrail, and we have to put guardrails in the charter. So if it doesn't pass, my approach to be we have to work effectively with the county to get all possible grants, state level, absolutely, and even on the federal level, ask and it will be given to you. I mean, the federal government spends so much money, why not ask for them? And the state of Florida has been declared many times as a state of emergency. With our situation, hurricanes and stuff, we can use those money for the infrastructure. But if it doesn't pass, we still have plenty of room to work with the commission and come up with a better solution than this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. White.
Okay, that's a really scary thought if it doesn't pass, because there's so much that needs to be done. Again, as one who's been here for over 30 years, and moving to Northport when it was a sleepy little town, and we are on our way to having 95,000 people in the city, and I think the estimate is there's 500 people moving here every month. We can't possibly finance the projects that are needed to accommodate that kind of population growth. The city was built out to accommodate 250,000 people, but it was also built for retirees. So we're a very different community than what was planned for it, and those needs need to be financed, and we need to be realistic about how we're going to do that. Talking about grants, very nice idea, but they are highly competitive and they're limited as when you get them. And some of those situations, as was mentioned, we would be eligible for loans if we were able to match the funds or have the ability to have that money available for those low interest loans and those things. So I don't even want to think about what would happen, but it would be very challenging. Yes, we do have those CIP projects, and some of them we have a huge book, and some of them they say unfunded. So that's just, that's a plan, but no money. So that's the reality.
Okay, Ms. White, we'll start with you with the next question. The next question is, what, if anything, should be done to improve the drainage in Northport to limit flooding such as that experienced from Hurricane Ian and after Tropical Storm Debbie?
Okay. Well, we actually just had a whole workshop about our water, what some people say are our water problem, and flooding, and the difference between flooding and ponding in Northport. We do live in the big slough, and that's the reality. That means all water comes through Northport, whether we want it or not. It comes from the north and the east. And the estimate was it would be like something like $1.5 billion if we really wanted to address the water needs of that comes through here. Again, as I mentioned before, Northport was built by General Development. It was built for a retirement community, and they put in the swales. We have open swales that carries the water through, and our roads become temporary canals. That's how they design the city. We have 104 square miles, and a lot of that is right here with that kind of a system in place. And to think that that's going to change drastically, it really isn't. It's just something that we have to come to terms with. This is where we live, and that's the best I can say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Petro?
So the question is, how do we address the drainage? We have to take it step by step and vigorously plan in advance. I think we have to start small, what we can. We have to, all the infrastructure of water control system has to be updated to allow proper functioning. I wrote a couple things. Also, the city should consider widening of some water canals to accommodate the water flow to prevent further flooding. My idea maybe build or design more retention ponds. But yes, like Alice mentioned, it is a problem, and that's the way it is. And we live in that area that is very low. But we can still do stuff, and we can still be proactive. We just have to be concentrated on the flooding and infrastructure, because it seems like we get sidetracked to other things. We are more concerned about developing stuff, without developing our infrastructure first. So sort of have a carriage ahead of the horses. So we do have to plan, and we do have to plan accordingly prior planning of development. And I think that's the real issue, that we are getting ahead of ourselves. So there's no magic answer, but we have
Thank
to
you.
work hard.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, or Mr. Petro. Mr. Spith?
Yeah, as it's already been spoken about, unfortunately, this is a sheet flow area, and it all comes out of the big slough, and it's coming to us because it wants to get to the harbor. One of the main projects that got shelved years ago was the city bought land along the west side of the Myakkahatchee Creek, so that way they could put in a dry ditch, so that way as sheet flow, they were going to make the pass under 75 larger, and that way as the sheet flow came down, it would help not harm the Myakkahatchee, and it would also flow around the Lady Slipper area. There are areas of this city that need more infrastructure in place to help them out. I'm in District 2. We have a bunch of canals that were put in as the roads were put in. I don't think the drainage issues are quite the problem out by us. So we need, as a city, to kind of really focus in on the couple areas that continue to have issues over and over again. Another thing that I've noticed is, as some of these large commercial projects come in, they kind of don't seem to have a master plan in place right from the go. And like the hospital now, if you look at it, they've just got water drainage all around the outside edge on the citizens' side. So hopefully we can continue to make sure that our commercial development does not pass their water problems on to citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Langdon?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I'll be honest with you, we are figuring it out as we speak, because here's the reality. When General Development designed the stormwater management system for the city, they did design it to support 250,000 people. And when the streets flood, if your home hasn't flooded, that's success. So a lot of people who move here from other areas get freaked out, but that is actually the system working the way it should. But here's the rub. When General Development designed our stormwater management system, they designed it on 60 years ago on an assumption that we'd get in the summer no more than 5 inches of rain in a week's time. Well, in the 10 years I've been here, it's very clear that in the summers we get way more rain than that. So it's a problem, it's an issue, we need to figure it out. Don't have very many answers. A couple of the things that are being looked at is dredging our ditches, increasing a little bit the capacity of our canals, and also creating a reservoir in the area that Mr. Smith mentioned. That would have the added benefit of retaining a large body of water to aid in future water source.
Thank you. Mr. Duval?
Yes. One thing that would definitely help is before any development is allowed to proceed in this city, make sure that impact fees are paid. New developments do affect the city in many ways, okay? Impact fees in the past, sometimes to help with development of the city, have been deferred, lowered. Impact fees need to be paid so that the infrastructure can be put in along with the new development. As Mr. Smith said, there are some areas of the city, like the area that I live in this area south of here. I don't have too many drainage problems. But this morning I was out walking, putting door hangers on in the Biscayne area, Grove Street area. And I see how many houses have been affected by flooding. I see sections of the city where I'm walking on the sidewalks, I'm walking on mud. Okay, so this is an important issue. The money has to be put forward to it. As Mr. Smith said, a master plan has to take place. Thank you.
Mr. Sias?
I have a different perspective in the role of a commissioner. You're the public. You tell us you have flooding. We have problems. The commissioner's job is to get it funded. Everybody up here can say it's a terrible problem, but we have to get the funding to get it done. Saying there's a problem, saying we have a project for it, and not funding it, just like Price Boulevard. I moved down here 20 years ago and there was a sign going up widening Price Boulevard. We have to follow through. You, the public, and this is where I disagree also, where the statement was made that there's no feedback other than the charter. You, the voters, every 2 years have an impact. You vote. I have to thank everybody coming here to come here to listen to us, to get information, to decide how you want to vote. You have the power. A commissioner's power comes through the people. And we are always responsible for you, and if we're not, you get to vote. But as far as the infrastructure, we have to reach out to the state, and we have to reach out and build those relationships to get funding, because if we don't, we're in a dire problem. And saying there's a problem, saying we should correct it, is not the same as getting it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll begin with Ms. Langdon. What, if any, changes would you suggest in the way that city commissioners interact with the public?
That's a great question. I'll share what I tried to do and what I plan to do more of. I have a goal of meeting with residents of this city one-on-one for coffee. If someone sends me an email and they have a problem, I try to reach out to them and schedule time to meet one-on-one. I think having meet and greets and little town halls and inviting groups of people to come is an excellent way for commissioners to participate. I also attend as many community events and as many city events like our United Tour events, because it gives me an opportunity to hear what kinds of questions and concerns our residents have. It also gives me an opportunity before and after the meeting to connect with residents who have concerns and are having issues. So I think those are all ways that commissioners can engage with the community and get a better understanding of what keeps people up at night and get ideas on what we can do to resolve some of those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, this is one of the primary reasons I decided to run. We have a city of commissioners who just voted themselves a pay raise, and I have not seen anywhere where they have registered office hours. We need to make sure that we are available to you guys. It's a spot where me and another commissioner current have some difference of opinion. I believe I'm your employee. I believe that everything I do is because you allowed it, because you voted for me. My goal is to make sure that I have registered office hours. My goal is to continue what one current commissioner is doing. I would love it if she would allow me to continue her monthly meet and greets and her monthly government and you classes. Her classes are kind of what got me to understand the different buckets, and she's really helped me kind of stay focused on things. So the big change would just be I want to be more available to you guys. There are tons of community events. There's a lot of ways to get out there, but sometimes you just need to be available during normal office hours. That's my difference. Thank you.
Mr. Petro?
Thank you. I believe the city government can improve tremendously, has the opportunity to improve tremendously the communication between the citizens and the government. I do believe and I desire to establish effective channels of communication between the voters, you guys, and the commission. I think, and I do believe by talking to a lot of people, that the city has done a poor job listening to the residents. It seems like the city, for the most part of the commission, not all the commissioners, but it seems like the city has its own formulated ideas and agenda, but yet we are the residents of the city, and it seems that we are not being heard. And that's the reason, just like Josh said, I chose to put myself into the position and run for the commissioner. I do believe that we can work in tandem with the citizens, and that can benefit us as a city tremendously for the long-term prosperity of the city and for the prosperity of the city. I would be open to have a honest dialogue and even asking questions on the dais. I mean, not just to listen the 2-minute, 3-minute presentation of the people, but to have effective dialogue with the people and see where they stand and what can be done on our side if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. White?
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. What, if any, changes would you suggest in the way that city commissioners interact with the public?
Okay. Well, again, I know that we're always available, and I know from people who contact me on my cell or the city cell phone or emails, and that they do know how to contact us and have a conversation. As far as in group settings, the city has put in place a number of new opportunities, such as the United Tours, where we have gone to have small gatherings in different places in the city where people can ask their questions, listening tours, and the budget sessions. This is, again, from someone who's lived here and has been involved with not just with my own personal involvements, but I went to all the commission meetings when we were in the old City Hall on Northport Boulevard. So, and I tell people, there's not one development project you can point to that I can't tell you the history of that project. And Northport has come a long way in having more opportunities for the public to interact with their elected officials. And, you know, I had coffee, I called it casual conversations when I was first elected, and I didn't have many people coming, actually, to tell you the truth. But we have what's called a coffee and conversation. In fact, there's something coming up later in October where you can just freely come in and speak to, I'll be there, and yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Sias?
Working the way down. Reaching out and understanding people's issues is a quality I've developed through my business career. I've learned that if somebody's yelling at you or is angry, sometimes they have a reason. You have to let them vent. You don't take it personal. I always quote The Godfather because it's the famous line, it's business, it's not personal. I will listen to you. You may have an anger thing. It won't offend me if you yell. It's my job to hear you. And reaching out is not only having coffee clutches, having events with the city. A lot of times people don't have time to go to them. I will go to events where people go already. The Poinsettia Festival, a football game, a farmer's market, any of the city events. Set up a table. You can walk up. If you want to talk, talk. If you want to complain, I will listen. But I will come to you instead of setting up not only setting up events where you come to me, but I will come to you. And there are issues that are out there. And also as a commissioner, you have to be able to judge the majority one way or the other. And the only way you can get that is by listening. Because no matter what you vote on, somebody will be upset, somebody will be happy, and you have to manage that and make everybody know that you are listening to their needs. Thank you.
Our next question will begin with Mr. Duval.
Okay.
Next question.
No. I think you skipped it.
Oh, I did skip it. I'm so
I'm
sorry.
easy to ignore.
Okay, so you can finish that question, and we'll start with you.
I also didn't get to answer question number 2, but that's okay. I've been going to city meetings for many years, and I've noticed a change. Years ago, there was a gentleman named Mr. Lewis, and he was our city manager. And during a meeting, if I had a question about something, or if I made a comment on some topic that the commissioners were talking about, within a few minutes after I had made my comment or my question, I would see Mr. Lewis talk to a member of his staff. And within another couple of minutes, I would get a printout of some kind. I would get some information, okay? Leadership goes from the top. And I feel that in the more recent past, our commission has given up some of that direction and let city staff, my way of describing it is the tail's wagging the dog. And with the current city manager, I asked a question on a radio show and I was told, look it up. That is definitely not the way I would want to be as a commissioner. I agree with Mr. Smith, and I would join him in following up on Commissioner McDowell's town halls. Thank you.
Thank you. But we're going to start with you on the next
Oh.
question, so I won't skip you. Do you believe affordable housing and the cost of living are issues in Northport? And if so, what steps would you take to improve these issues?
Make a few more millionaires in this city. Unfortunately, housing is expensive in this city, okay? And it's only getting worse. Now, as part of the recent ULDC reformation, tiny houses are going to be allowed. But I looked at that, and one of the things it says is these tiny houses have to have garages. That's going to increase the cost. I think that's a mistake, okay? Tiny houses can be starters for young families. Another way to address this housing thing is to stop raising all our bills. I want you to take a look at your electric bill. When I moved here in 2008, the city charges a franchise fee on your electric bill. They also charge a city tax. When I moved here in 2008, it was 2%. 2 years ago, I talked against it, but they raised it to 6%. Last year, they raised it to 10%. That's money coming out of your pockets, coming out of young families' pockets. We've also raised a lot of fees lately, and that's money that is coming out of your pockets. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sias?
The solution, as I said earlier, to affordable housing in Northport is affordable jobs. As I mentioned, we're in the top 20 of losing our middle class. I work in a company where young people share a house, 3 people to a house, because they can't afford a house. We have to address this, and like I said, having a job at a 7-Eleven, at retail, in most cases, you don't afford a house in Northport. You don't have the benefits. More and more people are moving from north. They sell their houses, they don't have a mortgage, They have a ton of money. If they don't invest it in a new house, it's taxed as capital gains. So they buy a house down in Northport, but they can afford it. I bought my house in 2003. I think I paid $121,000. My house is $380,000. People can't afford that, but again, it's getting a better paying job, so somebody doesn't have to drive to get that job. And that will help our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. White?
Okay. Yes, affordable housing, that's always an issue when a place becomes very popular, because if you moved here 30 years ago, and there's a couple of us in this room who can attest to this, affordable housing was not an issue. But it is now, because everyone wants to be in Northport and be in areas, and that's when you have a problem with affordable housing. What we can do to help that is, and what we've done with the revamping of our Unified Land Development Code, is that we changed it so that if a project is in 100% compliance with the code, that it does not have to come before the commission for approval. And that means that if you have a developer who has an affordable housing project, they know that here's our checklist. We need to check all these boxes and we can proceed. Because they're the ones who go after those funds that are out there for affordable housing to subsidize their projects. We have, I think it's Arbor Park that is on Citizens Parkway. There's one that's I just heard about on Chamberlain, affordable housing project coming. So again, the way that these projects can move forward faster and come to Northport is for the developers and builders to know they're not going to have all of these walls put up to do the project.
Thank you. Mr. Petro?
How do we solve this problem? I think I've talked to many people, and I think the problem is, on one hand, is people are being taxed out. Talked to numerous people, and they said it's just too expensive to live here. I moved from Port Charlotte. They say, is one example, and the taxes and fees are killing us. And to some degree, I agree with them, because all these fees and additional taxes are being put on people. For example, utility tax out of my FPL bill, 25-30%. Actually, it's more than $30. It's around $30 to $40 each month I pay to the city of Northport. Like David said, it's the utilities interest. The percentage has increased to 10%. There's another fees is being increased on garbage. I believe it's 10%, and it's being put in general fund of the city. We like to add these fees on people, and yet, we don't help them in a way, because we tax them out. But it comes to the supply and demand, really. People want to move here, and people like it here, so the more people move, the more expensive it is. But like we've heard, there's solutions with affordable housing that people can still afford through those affordable housing projects. I guess we can do more with Habitat of Humanity.
Thank you, Mr.
But I'm
Petro.
out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Unfortunately, this is an issue that we're going to have. We are very close to the coast. We are just gonna get priced out of almost everything. I'm hoping in my lifetime I can still afford to live here. It's an issue that happens when you pick this close to water. The key to affordable housing is to keep all of the weird little fees that sneak in, like Mr. Petro spoke about. Somehow we gave ourselves the old pat on the back for keeping our millage rate the same, but then we added a bunch of fees to a bunch of the different other buckets. So you didn't keep the millage rate the same. You just put money in the general fund and another door, hoping we didn't notice. This is where we need to be fiscally responsible. Time and time again, we watch money get spent without the greater vision. I don't mean to keep hammering it, but we just voted another pay raise, in the middle of begging you guys to give us a referendum change. We just decided that we needed to raise the buckets to help meet the general fund. We have to be financially responsible. That's the way affordable housing is gonna happen here.
Thank you, Ms. Langdon.
Affordable housing, it's an issue nationwide, and we have it in spades here in Southwest Florida. So there are three things that we have to do or continue doing. One has been mentioned before, getting good paying jobs here will enable people to afford the housing that's here. In our ULDC, we've expanded the different types of housing that can occur here in the city. When General Development designed this city, it was all single-family homes on quarter-acre lots. That's the most expensive housing type you can have. In the ULDC, in certain areas of the city, will now allow duplexes, quadplexes, higher density housing that will introduce, on the market rate side, less expensive housing compared with the single-family home. And in addition, our city, when you compare us to other communities in the area, has done an excellent job attracting affordable housing developments here to the city. We have over 1,000 income managed units. We have an over 55 income controlled unit about ready to open on Citizens Parkway. We have 2 others under construction in other areas of the city, so we need to continue doing those 3 things to make housing more affordable in this city.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. Petro. What is your position on attracting more commercial development to augment Northport's tax base? And what is your strategy to achieve your vision?
So any investment has to be justified for the betterment of the city. We have to look at the case-by-case analysis. Development shouldn't be done for the sake of development, but we have to attract more businesses here. I would suggest that we work with our county commission more closely on projects and businesses that can relocate here from other areas. Work with state and federal grant programs to help to subsidize those developments. When we consider development projects, we have to make sure that it not only benefits the developer, but the city and the long-term prosperity of the city. Because guess what? Whatever we do, we leave the mark after we're gone. And we have to think long-term. We have to plan for the betterment of the city for the next generation. And I think we have to be diligent and study the strategic development plan. How can it be improved? And will be honest with you. If I'm elected, I'll do what I can to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. White?
Okay, yes. Well, again, going back to one of the accomplishments that the Sitting Commission did this year was revamp the Unified Land Development Code with rezoning, and that increased our commercial tax base from being just at 8% and doubled it to 16%. That is what we need to do to present more opportunities for businesses to come in. And Northport now is very business friendly. Again, having lived here for 30 years, I know I've had decades of listening to people saying they didn't like doing business in Northport. It was always this answer, then a different answer, and we have streamlined it, and businesses are coming to Northport. Toledo Blade, which was always designed to be our commercial corridor, has all kinds of businesses coming there. Chipotle is coming there, Starbucks, there's 2 child care centers. I learned that Northport is a child care center desert, that we are so desperate for daycares, and we have 2 coming there. So that to me tells me things are working because these opportunities are coming there. There's also a Northport Town Center that's planned for along Toledo Blade. So those are things that are happening in Northport and will continue to happen. Thank you.
Ms. Langdon?
Yes, thank you. Experts in city planning or urban planning tell us that in order for a municipality to be able to balance its budget, it recommends that 20 to 30% of your land use be all things commercial, industrial, office, retail. As Mayor White mentioned, currently 8% of our land use is commercial. With the ULDC rewrite, we did double that to 16%. One of the major inhibitors of businesses coming here is there was a deficit of land properly zoned to enable them to come here. So we've made a good step forward in correcting that in our land use rewrite. We're still shy of that low end of 20%, but it will be better. We also have become more business friendly. We work very, very closely with the Economic Development Corporation of Sarasota County and with the economic development organizations of the state. And we are seeing a lot of activity in Northport, and we're getting a lot of interest for businesses to come here and start operations here in the city and bringing with them jobs, good jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, we definitely need to work on getting more commercial, and one of the keys is to get them an area where they can go. I know that a lot of people are against city water and sewer being ran at the expense of taxpayers. One of the problems you have is if you don't give them an area to go, they'll go where they can, which means they're in your backyard. I know there's a bunch of people upset because their ULDC rewrite got redone, and there's commercial all through existing neighborhoods. We are going to have to steer them to an area and go, here, this is yours. Another issue that I have is, I come from the great state of Michigan. I said that as I ran as fast as I could. It was an industrial powerhouse. At one time, it had more economic value than Europe. I'll let that sink in for a minute. I left it because of high taxes. So I keep hearing 30% commercial is how you get out of taxes. 30% commercial is how you get out of taxes. That state was far more than that. Their taxes were insane. If you're going to put commercial in, it needs to be something that actually helps your tax base. That's my hope and goal. We need to give them an area. We need to make sure it's something that actually helps us on the tax side.
Thank you. Mr. Duval?
First of all, I do not have all the answers, but I do have one idea, something I've been talking about lately. We live in Florida, the sun shines here. I would like to see our city, anytime they put up a city building, anytime they want to house vehicles, instead of putting, a carport over the top of them, put solar panels. If we have open areas, put solar panels. All city buildings should have solar. Now, let's just suppose that the city decides to do that. So they contract with a company. There is a company in Georgia that manufactures solar panels. Suppose we convince that company to come down here and open a place and maybe educate some of our young people on how to install, manufacture solar panels. We're sitting in an educational place right here that can do something like that. Okay? It could give young people jobs that could give them a living wage. And one thing we could do would be to take some of that money that the city gets from your electric bill and put that towards low or no interest loans so everybody that wants solar on their house could afford it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Size?
The answer is, what was the question? Please repeat it.
Okay.
Because we went to solar panels and I thought it was
Yeah.
commercial development.
Let's see. What is your position on attracting more commercial development to augment Northport's tax base, and what is your strategy to achieve your vision?
Okay. One of the things I would do, I would be an ambassador to the city. We have to attract more commercial. We were at our infant stage as a city. You know what happens when you get past infant? The first thing that gets built is car washes, mattress stores, 7-Elevens. We're beyond that now. We're beyond our teenage years. We have to attract jobs that will pay people money that they can afford to live here. I know David's very proud of that tax, getting rid of the tax on your electric, but for a consumer, your mortgage, which is $2,500, $3,000 a month, $35 seems very little. You're stepping over $1 to pick up a penny. We have to get more affordable jobs and attract jobs, because the limited corporate land that's available, we have to make sure it's jobs that will be worth our while. One of the areas I want to do is medical. We're having all these hospitals built here. There can be training centers. We can also reach out. For example, companies that build replacement hips and knees. They are businesses that could come into our community and not disrupt it, and yet provide a greater tax base, affordable jobs, and help the city. Thank you.
Thank you. We're almost out of time, so we're going to skip ahead to question 13. So if you'll look at your grid there, and Mr. Sias, you'll begin. And our final question for the evening is, please make any closing remarks you'd like to make.
When I opened this up, I told you who I am, what I do for Northport. I bleed Northport. I raise the socks for kids and underwear. I volunteer at the Art Center, sponsor kids at the Art Center for their summer camps. It's an amazing program. Please use it. If it's anything that you will learn from today, that I put Northport first. Although my wife is here, Holly, she came in, I don't know if she left, but she's always first, but after her is Northport. I know, so I don't get yelled at. I couldn't see you, I knew you were here. But I will always put the needs of Northport. Will some of you be upset with something I do? Yes. I can't keep Holly happy all the time. I make dumb decisions sometimes, but I learn from them. But everything I do, you will know that I'm looking for the good of Northport, for our community, our children. And we're at a crossroads. Years ago, we could kick down the can down the road. We were 22,000 people when I moved down here. We're at 88,000. We're growing. And once we get to a certain point, there are things that we won't be able to fix later on. And we have to address them now. And I will tackle them and listen to you to make the right decisions. Thank you. I think it goes this way.
Mr. Duval?
Thank you. Earlier on, when I introduced myself, one of the things I told you about was that I was in the Marines, I was in a war, and I came home and I was not allowed to vote. And at that time, you know, being 20 years old, still being half kid, made me a little angry, and it stayed with me. But you know what made me angrier? After the primary this year, I saw the numbers, and I saw that countywide, like 31% of the voters voted. And in Northport, it was more like 20%. Our country only survives as a democracy because we stand up for it. And if people do not get out and vote, we are in danger of losing what we have. So, in conclusion, what I want to do is ask each one of you to ensure, and I'm sure all of you here took the time to be here, you're going to vote. But talk to your neighbors, talk to your young relatives, and make sure they get out and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Langdon?
Thank you. Boy, I always thought it took two to tango. One of the things I've learned spending 4 years on the commission is it actually takes 3 to tango. You need 3 out of 5 votes to get anything passed. So that's one of my learnings. And that takes communication skills, it takes listening skills. It also takes being willing to listen and change your position and to make decisions that might not be your first inclination to do. I'm a business person, so that tends to be my approach. But in listening to the residents of the city, listening to people who have expressed concerns at city meetings and with me one-on-one about the impact on our environment of growth, I've changed my thinking on some things. I still believe economic development, bringing jobs to the city are essential, but we need to protect our environment. So I made the motion a couple of weeks ago to direct staff to explore a conservation easement for the property next to Warm Mineral Springs. That was not my position a couple of years ago, but I've softened that position.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just looking to bring common sense to the commission. Really hoping to continue to listen to the citizens, hoping to be available to you guys. Want to make sure that we're taking your opinion in first. We have a city staff. They're fantastic at worrying about what the developers want. They're great at the vision. I just feel like a lot of times we pay way more attention to them than we do to the citizens. I'd like to say thank you to my wife for putting up with me through all this. And also, I gave you a fun fact about Detroit being more powerful than Europe at one point. Please go home and Google that, and you'll realize how terrible that state did with managing it. Thank you.
Mr. Petro?
Yes. In closing, I want to say this. I'm running for this position not because of my ambitions or career or even compensation. I want the city to thrive and to be prosperous in all aspects that pertains to the quality of life. After all, we moved here for our own reasons, and this city is unique, so I would like to preserve a unique fabric of our environment, and that's not an empty promise, but I want to make it to preserve the uniqueness of our city. And obviously not just to lead if I'm elected, but to listen to the residents and represent the residents. And if you want to see a positive change in our city, I want to ask all of you to vote for me. And I want to ask all of the people who are watching online to vote for me, because I can bring a positive change for the city. And I want to thank you for being here and be a diligent resident and to participate in this election. And thank you again, and I thank you for this organization for getting this forum to be intact. Thank you.
And Ms. White?
All right, I guess I'm clean up. Okay. In my personal life, I've never shied away from making decisions that were difficult, but had to be made. And again, I just ask that you look into my history of living here for 30 years and the different things. Just Google my name and all the things that come up, because I have loved where I've lived for 33 years. And when I saw a need for something, or gee, we should have this or we should have that, I put it in motion to make that happen. And that's how I've been as a commissioner, that I haven't shied away from making those difficult decisions with our ULDC, with Warm Mineral Springs, but these are decisions that had to be made. And Mr. Smith brought up, the commission's salary increase. Yes, that was something that was put on the back burner because nobody wanted to tackle that. But these are decisions that have to be done. And it's easy to be on the side that's perceived to have the popular sentiment. It's difficult to be involved with a contentious be on the side that people are not in favor of. So during my term as a commissioner, I think I've shown that I am capable of making those difficult decisions for the residents of Northport today and for future, so that we'd never have legacy projects again. No municipality should have anything that's termed legacy project. And I will be sure that that never happens again. Thank you.
So thanks to our candidates and Sarasota League volunteers. Voters, please vote by mail, early voting, or on election day at the polls. Your vote is your voice, and it matters. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.